Hi, I'm Brian, back for the Lincolnwood Library with another Microsoft Excel lesson today. Last week we covered basic Excel, and this week we're going in even more detail. I've got an intermediate Excel file available in the description of this video that you can download to follow along with this class. So wherever you download it on your computer, you want to open that up. And it might open in a protected view. You just want to hit Enable Editing to be ready to use it for the class. All right, last week we covered the basic interface of Excel, and this week we're going to cover simple formulas and some data tasks as well. So in our example Excel file, a couple notes. If you're enjoying this class and want to view more, this YouTube button here, you can click that to go to the Lincolnwood Library YouTube channel. You can also click the Lincolnwood Library logo to go to our website to see all the different resources we have. So again, today we are going to cover simple formulas. All formulas start in blank cells by typing equals. So you always have to pick the cell that you want the result of the formula to display in first. Then you type an equals, and we're going to go into a lot more detail on different formulas you can do, but you can just do basic math. So I'll just do 1 plus 1 and enter. So you see in cell G10 there, it outputs 2. Now, if you look up to the formula bar, you see the code that that formula is made up of. Again, all formulas start with equals, 1 plus 1. Now, this is a very basic formula here. Formulas can get a lot more complex. You can even put a formula inside of a formula. So for examples, I could do equals 1 plus 1 plus, and then I could put another formula here, maybe a formula that multiplies numbers or anything like that. Now, if you ever get in a situation like this where you're typing a formula and don't actually want to enter it, you can just delete or backspace and stop entering the formula. Now, formulas can output all sorts of different things, from numbers to changed text to sentences. I've got an example of a much more complex formula here in cell L14. And again, the result is in the spreadsheet, and the formula bar shows the code that outputs it. This is a very complex formula, but basically it takes the date, the weekday of today's date, and if it equals Wednesday, the text says it's Wednesday, and if it's not Wednesday, it says it's not Wednesday. I'm editing this today on a Tuesday. So this is how you could put multiple formulas inside each other. Excel formulas, of course, do a lot more than just basic math. In this example, we can evaluate the day for different qualifications. Excel formulas are very similar to high school math, like f of x notation. You call equals, then you say to Excel, I'm doing a certain type of math. And that type of math is called with the different name of the formula. Sometimes formula and function are used interchangeably in Excel. So if you don't want to make changes to a formula, you can just click at the end and hit enter. Now, the code that makes up Excel formulas, sometimes it can be basic, sometimes it can be very complex. It is always computer programming. The code of an Excel formula is basic computer programming. It totally is. Now, along with those advanced formulas that you have to call by specific names, you can do all standard math in Excel formulas. So here are the Excel order of operations. First, parentheses are considered, anything inside of parentheses. Then exponents, followed by multiplication, division, addition, and then subtraction. I've got some example formula results here in column E and the code that generates them in column D. And you can take a look at that. I encourage you, if you need to, hit the space bar or press in the middle of this video to pause. And if you have the spreadsheet nearby, you can take a look at those example formulas in more detail. To type the mathematical operators, look at column K here. That'll show you how to do the plus sign and the exponent sign, multiplication, division, and subtraction. So those are the Excel orders of operations. And these can be done in combination with the advanced formulas that you call by name with custom names. So more advanced formulas also start with equals, and they do the custom math or functions. These function names have to be called just by typing them, and they're text. And most of the time, people do them in uppercase, but you can also do them in lowercase. It's up to you. A very basic one of these is the formula to do quick addition, which is sum. S like Sam, U like umbrella, M like Mary. So again, you hit equals in a cell to tell Microsoft Excel that you're doing a formula. Then you type the name of that function, sum. There are a ton more. Then you open parenthesis with Shift 9. After that, as you can kind of see in this picture here, each formula takes parameters, different information that the formula requires to work. There can be different numbers of parameters based on the different formula that you're doing. Excel tries to describe those parameters. You could also think of them as variables as well. Each parameter is split up by a comma before the next one. Some formulas take certain numbers of parameters. For example, this count if formula takes a range of cells and criteria about those cells. The sum formula, for example, takes an infinite number of parameters that correspond to numbers that can be added up. So parameters can vary from numbers to text, references to other cells or ranges of cells. Parameters can even be other formulas. That gets complicated very quickly. Now, you do not want to refer to the cell that you're typing in as a parameter in your formula. So if you're adding numbers and you're putting your result into column A, you don't want to then in your formula call column A, because your cell that you are outputting the results to is in column A, so that would not work. So you'll have to do references and numbers and all sorts of different things to fill out parameters in Excel formulas. Once you've done your last parameter, you use Shift 0 to enter a close parenthesis and tell Microsoft Excel that you're done with the formula. Then you want to press Enter or Tab to tell Excel you're done with the formula and to calculate the result. A lot of times people will try to click on a different cell instead of hitting Enter or Tab, and that can cause problems as it often adds a reference to the cell you clicked on to the formula. So here I've got an example. We'll do a basic sum formula. I've got some random numbers that I generated. Again, the first thing we always have to do when we are creating a Microsoft Excel formula is to tell Excel where we want the formula to be. So I'm going to click in cell N45 here. I'm going to start the formula off with equals. I'm doing addition. I want to use that sum formula. Now, as you're typing formulas, you see Excel has autocomplete, and it will help you if you're forgetting a formula name. It might jog your memory. So I want to do sum, Shift 9, open parenthesis. Now you see this is a case where I am able to have basically infinite parameters, as is described by this ... in the description that appears beneath the formula. So I could click on a cell and that will be put into the formula. I can click and drag to do arrange. I'm going to click and drag again. As soon as you select cells, as you add cells into a parameter in your formula, they're highlighted in different colors in Excel. That helps you keep track of references, and you can also change these by dragging the edges. So very carefully, I want to drag that over, and I have added all of those cells to the formula. Now, as an example, I'm going to delete that. You can also just click on individual cells that you want to add to your formula as a reference. And if you need to add multiple, you can hold your Control key, it may be Command on Macs, and then click the multiple cells that you need. And Excel is really smart. It knows when you're doing this that you're adding extra parameter entries, so it puts a comma between each. So I need that last one. Then I hold Shift and press 0 to close parenthesis and hit Enter. And then it does that math for me. So I can click back onto that cell. Again, the result is in the spreadsheet, cell N45. The code that outputs it is in the formula bar. Now, if you need to edit your code for your Excel formula, you can do any of the methods of editing an Excel cell, whether it's double click into the cell to edit it inline like this, single clicking and typing over, or clicking into the formula bar. So I'm just going to manually correct this to be a range of cells. When you're referring to multiple cells, you can call the cell number of the first one in the upper left corner, in this example H45, and then do a colon, which is Shift and then the key to the right of the L, and then type the name of the cell in the range to the lower right, M45 in this case. Now, as I'm typing this, it shows me what parameter I'm working on, and if I hit comma, you see it opens up another parameter and reminds me that I can add more. But I don't need to add more, so I'm going to delete that and hit Enter. And it gets the same value for the calculation. It's just a different way to refer to all of these cells. Now I have a whole bunch more randomly generated numbers for us to use for more examples. In the top of Excel, the ribbon, we've been in the Home tab so far in our Intermediate Excel class today. There is a Formulas tab, which has a whole bunch of custom buttons specifically related to functions. There are all sorts of things about variables and advanced management of formulas, but the function library is a place where you can discover a whole bunch of Excel formulas. So I just want to take you through this before we use some more of them. Recently used will update over time and shows formulas that you have used frequently. You can't count on these formulas being in the same place. If you need to access them as you use Excel more, these will change. They have a whole menu of financial formulas. Lots of accountants and just people managing their average checking accounts, banking accounts use Excel for all sorts of different financial calculations like future value and payments, all sorts of different financial formulas that take certain parameters and help you calculate things related to money. There are a ton of logical operators as well. This is very close to computer programming. You've got Boolean logic. If you've ever taken a computer science class, these formulas will work exactly as you would expect. You've got and, if, or, not that help you construct advanced logic that you can do multiple things with. Excel is often used to help clean up text from formulas. There are all sorts of different things. You can find specific text within characters and process things as a result of that. Earlier, I showed the day formula. In date and time, Excel has tons of other formulas related to the current time. You can use those in conjunction with dates that are existing in your data to do some powerful processing. A lot of large data sets are processed in Excel using lookup and reference formulas. You can do vertical lookup or horizontal lookup. Those are both very popular formulas. Index as well is also a very popular formula along with match. And when you hover over any of these formulas, you get basic descriptions. In math and trigonometry, there are an amazing number of formulas, including formulas for cosines, all sorts of different advanced formulas if you're doing advanced mathematics. More functions as well, stats, engineering, cubes, web formulas as well. You'll really have to explore these a little bit to get to know them. And one way that you can explore Excel formulas in a really low risk situation is the insert function button. Now you see it's got that f of x notation I talked about before. This fx button is the same as this button just to the left of the formula bar. Now before you use either of these two buttons, you always want to click into a specific cell where you want the formula to go. These buttons help you build formulas on the fly. So I'll click f of x here, insert function, and it brings up a helpful menu. You can go by category, and these categories are basically the same as the categories up here, but there's also an all category and most recently used. So maybe I'm looking for a formula related to date and time, and you can scroll through the list, or you can actually search formulas. Search for a function here. So maybe I need to evaluate the month in a date that has been put out by a database. So you type a little basic description of what you're looking for, hit go, and the values in the function list here change. So you can click the formulas to see little descriptions of them at the bottom. It shows the name that you call the formula by after hitting equals, then all of the parameters or variables it takes. And if you hit OK, after having clicked on a formula, it brings you to a menu that helps you enter those parameters. Argument is another name for parameter or variable, and all you would do is fill these out to help you construct the formula. So you might not even have to, in some cases, know the exact syntax. The function arguments menu of insert function will help you do that. Now, I don't actually want to enter this formula, so I'm just going to hit cancel. Another way that we can enter formulas is using Autosum. Autosum automatically evaluates numbers next to a cell you're in for a few different ways of doing some basic calculations. So you always, again, want to click into the cell where you want the formula to go first. Then you could click the Autosum button. Now you see there's two halves to this button. You always want to click the down arrow beneath it to pick between the different automatic math that Excel can do for you. Now I'm just going to click away from that for a second and click back into the Home tab. In the Home tab here, there are a ton of buttons, and you see in the editing menu, there's another Autosum button. This button does the same thing as the other one. And again, you want to click the arrow of the two half button, not the left side in this case. So I'm just going to use this one here. Click that arrow. Autosum can automatically add, average, count the amount of numbers in the selection. It can automatically find the largest number or the smallest number. Now, all of these assume that the numbers are next to the cell that you have clicked. So it'll go up or to the left, usually. If you have a whole bunch of numbers, multiple rows or multiple columns, sometimes Autosum can screw up a little bit, but most of the time it's really good. So again, I've clicked into cell O58. I click the arrow next to Autosum. For this first one, I want to add them up. So I just click on sum. Now it gives you a preview of the math it's going to do. It highlighted automatically without me having to do anything else. All of the cells from I58 over to N58. It gives you this preview, and you can just hit enter to do that math automatically. Now I can do the same thing for an average. I've clicked into O61, Autosum average. So you see it's just equals average, and then the numbers as parameters, and enter. So it gives this one to us because there's not an exact answer in decimal. Now we can also count the number of cells in a range. So I've clicked into U64, Autosum count numbers, figured out I wanted to go left, enter. There are 12 entries there. Now you can also highlight a range and look to the bottom in your status bar and see that Excel will sometimes on the fly do certain calculations for you. Sometimes you just want to quickly see the average or the sum of an area of numbers, but you don't actually need a permanent formula. So again, you just highlight the numbers you want and look down into the status bar for that. So I'm going to click into O67. I want to do the max here. I click that arrow, max, check it, make sure it's good, enter. Down to O70, Autosum, min. This will find the smallest value. In this case is 95. Now, I failed to mention this before, but Excel formulas are auto-updating, meaning if I change this 95 value, the lowest in this group of numbers, to 1, and then hit enter, the formula auto-updates as well. It reevaluates the area. Excel formulas auto-update anytime that you apply a cell. So I type 2. I'm still editing this cell. I can change it to 23. As soon as I hit enter or tab, that's a time when Excel knows I'm done editing, and it will update all of the formulas in the spreadsheet. Now, this is the only one that actually changed because that was the only different value. So it's really great. You can do all sorts of different basic math. You just have to, over time, learn the name of functions, call an equal sign, type that name, open parenthesis, type in parameters or arguments. A lot of times, those are ranges of cells. Close parenthesis, enter, and Excel does math for you. Now, those are relative references that we have used so far. Our sum formula called H45 through L45. And if we were to copy that formula and move it, those references would change. If, for example, I scroll back up and I copy these numbers, put them down beneath it, I can take this formula here, copy with Control-C, move down a cell, paste, and it's no different because the numbers are the same. But if we click on these two cells and look into the formula bar, it's now using from column I59 to N59, and the previous row did row 58. So since I moved it down one, the formula adjusted the rows and moved them down one in row 59 as compared to almost the same formula in row 58. That is called a relative reference. If you move the formula anywhere, wherever you move it, if it's over here or over here, it knows it moved over 4 or 5 columns and up or down however many rows, and it will adjust the formula you typed accordingly. Now you can change the degree to which references are relative like that or absolute. If you need a formula to be absolute, you can add dollar signs before the parts of the cell reference. So a totally relative reference, maybe to the first cell in the upper left corner of the spreadsheet, would be A1. There's no dollar signs. You can make the column absolute, but leave the row relative with dollar sign A1. Or you could do the opposite, leave the column able to change, but the row not able to change with A $1. Or make both of those values fixed absolute with $A, $1. Now you can click next to any reference in a formula and press your F4 key to cycle between all of these different degrees of being relative or absolute. And by next to a reference in a formula, I mean like these pictures here. So this C2 value in this example formula, before it, or between the C and between the 2, or after the 2. Okay, now here's an example where you would want to use a fixed reference, an absolute reference to this tax percentage. I actually had the formula wrong before, so I corrected it. So in cell E101, we always start a formula with equals, and then we could do an open parenthesis, and we're going to do the price multiplied by shift 8, the quantity, D101, close parenthesis, that plus the same calculation again, C101 times D101, close parenthesis, that multiplied by our tax percentage. So that tax percentage doesn't move, while we're going to want to drag the rest of the values in this formula down. So we need dollar signs. So dollar sign, that tax percentage is in cell E, dollar sign 97. And you see it highlights that cell for me. And then I hit enter. And there we go. It calculated the price extension with tax. Now I can click back onto the cell and drag it down from that lower right corner, that small square. I click and hold on that and drag it down. And there we go. Now you see it didn't round, but you can fix that in an Excel formula as well. So just to click on these formulas and quickly evaluate them, you see it's starting with all of the row numbers as row 100, except for the fixed reference to cell E97. Then it moves down to 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, without changing that reference to E97. So we did not see any errors or any problems in this calculation because we used that absolute reference. Now, oftentimes you do see errors in Excel spreadsheets. Excel nerds like to joke that most spreadsheets have errors in custom formulas, but then they just make up a random percentage of spreadsheets that do have bad formulas. It's really hard to know, but a lot of times Excel helps us with error messages to say that our formulas have problems. And in different cases, the errors display in different ways. So the first and probably most common error is just seeing a whole bunch of number signs in a cell. So I'm going to make cell T small here, type in a long number, and change it a bit. There we go. So you'll see numbers appear like this sometimes, and all it means is that your column is not wide enough for the value. So you can click between that column and the next column, click and hold and drag until it's wide enough to show the full value. That error will disappear. Now you might see star ref as an error message as well, a lot of times inside a formula. This just says that the cell reference doesn't work. A lot of times copying and pasting screwed up. So you'll just have to retype the reference. You'll have to double click into the cell or go into the formula in the formula bar and enter that. A star name question mark error means that you probably misspelled a function name. So you'll just want to check for typos before the first open parenthesis. Now, sometimes it's not an error message like this that kind of cancels out the calculation of a formula, but sometimes you'll get a green arrow in the upper left corner of your cell. What that means is that there are multiple formulas next to each other, but one of those formulas Excel has evaluated, and the formula in that cell is different than the ones next to it. Sometimes this is really an error that you want to correct. Sometimes it is not an error that you actually need to correct. Either way, you should probably click on that cell, take a look at it in the formula bar, and make sure that it is calculating what you need. If it is calculating what you need, when you click on that cell, the ability to dismiss the error message will appear to the left. So that's an overview of formulas. Sometimes you get errors. Sometimes you need to modify the references between relative and absolute. And we can use the function library and Autosum to get started with a lot of formulas. Now, I want to show sorting data next. And to do that, we're going to switch to the next worksheet. So if you click that, it will switch to that worksheet. Excel has very powerful abilities to sort data. In our sorting data worksheet, I have some data from the Lincolnwood Library's video game collection as a large example that we can work with. It goes down many, many cells, about 500 cells that we can work with. So to sort this data here automatically, you want to click on the column that you want to use. So maybe I'll use the checkouts. And in the editing group, there is a sort and filter button. So I'm going to click on that. And there are all sorts of different ways to sort. Now, depending on the type of information in your column, it may give you different options. So in this case, I want to sort from largest to smallest. I want to see which video game has been checked out the most. So I click sort largest to smallest. And you may get warnings like this. It says that it recognizes there's data next to this column. And it's going to automatically expand to include that data. So if it moves the 28 checkouts of the video game 1-2 switch down, the rest of row 2 will also move to the corresponding place. So you definitely want to expand the selection and then hit sort. And you see it reorganized everything, and Mario Kart Wii is on the top. Now another example, I could do column A, home tab of the ribbon, editing group, sort and filter. Now there's different data in this column. It's kind of A to Z text. So it figures out that I can do A to Z. So I'm going to sort A to Z, expand the selection again, and it put that back. Now I can also do custom sorting. I'm going to do column C. And again, I go to sort and filter, custom sort. Probably want to expand the selection again. Now this gives you a menu that allows you to more specifically customize your sorting. So it gives you a column, sort on, and order values. So from column, you see that it has grabbed the values that are in my top of this data. So this time I'm going to use the call number, and I'm going to sort on values. Now, sometimes if you have a more advanced spreadsheet, you could sort if a cell is a green color or a yellow color. There are all sorts of different ways to sort, but I'm going to use values. Most of the time, you'll probably use values and how you want to sort, A to Z, Z to A, or you can do custom. And I'm just going to do A to Z. Then you can hit OK. And there you go. It put the first alphabetical call numbers at the top. Now, when you're doing this, just want to show one more thing. Again, custom sort. You want to make sure that My Data Has Headers is clicked. By headers, they mean these column labels that we manually typed in. It would not sort right if you had not clicked that. But I'm going to hit cancel. Now you see over here to the right, I have what Excel calls a formal table of the same data as on the left. And I'm going to show you more about Excel's powerful formal tables in a minute. But we can do one aspect of that without creating the table, which can be a little tricky and adds some more things you have to know about Excel. So if you highlight the labels at the top of your data, and then in the ribbon, go to the Data tab, there is a Sort and Filter group with a Filter button. And if you click Filter, you see now here in these cells at the top, there are now these little click drop down arrows in each of the columns, which are very similar to the formal table. And these allow us to do multiple filters in each column. So maybe I only want the video games from a certain year. I click the year drop down. You can use smallest to largest, largest to smallest, custom number filters, and you just highlight that, then click an option. Or you can use the checkbox selections at the bottom. I don't want all of them. I can unclick select all. Scroll down. Maybe I only want the video games from 2017. So I click that checkbox, click OK. And now if you look over to the left, you see that the row numbers skip some numbers from 4 to 10. It skips a whole bunch of values and so on for lots of the rows. That's because it filtered out the rows that were not 2017. You see the icon shows that you have filtered with that column filter. And if you click on that, you could click Clear Filter on that column. Now, I don't want to do that. I could filter on checkouts as well. Maybe in this one, I want to use a number filter. And I want ones that are greater than equal to, maybe have been checked out 10 times. So I can check different options related to the numbers in this column. It knows that it's numbers, so it has updated these options for me. And then hit OK. And you see it has gotten rid of even more. Now we're missing from 28 to 34 and so on. Now I can organize the titles A to Z. And I could even try to do filters in column B and column C. So the filters are very powerful and you can combine them together. To clear them out, again, you click on the filter, clear the filter, just do the same thing for the year, click the filter, clear the filter. And now again, you see that we have all the numbers. So that is very useful. Now I want to show just one more filter. In last activity here, if I click that filter and I look down to the specific checkboxes here, you almost always want to unclick select all. Sometimes in a database, there might be blank values that you need to fix or take a look at. And Excel notes that with the blanks option. So I can click that and OK. And these are the video games that unfortunately weren't checked out when I spit out this data set in early 2019. So that's really helpful, can help you evaluate bad data in a database or data entries in your own data using that filter. Again, I can click that and clear filter. And now all of the data is back. Okay, last but not least, I want to show you about formal tables. We're just going to go from sorting data worksheet directly to the tables worksheet. The filtering data worksheet is just an extra one. You can ignore it. Click into the tables worksheet, and I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top. Tables in Excel are really, really super powerful. They automatically add a lot of sorting and filtering features and enable custom references, which are really helpful. You do have to create the table from the data. So I've got multiple copies of the data just to highlight the differences here. I'm going to use the one on the left. To create your table, all you do, you just click on any random cell inside the data, then click to the Insert tab and Table. Excel automatically knows to evaluate the cells next to the cell that you started with, and it selects all of the cells that are kind of contiguous next to that until however far down you go. It tells you that range. You want to make sure if you have labels at the top of the data that my table has headers is checked. Then you hit OK. Now you see it automatically widens the columns to fit the column labels. It automatically adds this really nice formatting so it's much easier to read. It alternates the colors, and it adds the filters for each column. Now these are the same exact filters, but in one step it added them automatically, and we did not have to do that on our own. Now when this table has been added, you click on it, and you may notice at the top of Excel, it has added a whole new menu in the ribbon, Table Tools Design. And you could really quickly just change the coloring of the table in Table Styles. Maybe I like this kind of darker blue. Or I could go back. This is the default here. And that menu disappears when you do not need it. So it automatically adds the filters. It styles the tables for you. And in later Excel classes, we'll go over the ways that you can refer to the data more specifically using a new type of reference that the table enables. And these tables are very powerful. They can automatically continue formulas without you doing anything. Google Sheets and other spreadsheet programs typically can't duplicate what Excel tables can do. They're basically the most powerful data management for a consumer spreadsheet out there. So I encourage you to explore them. If you're a Lincolnwood resident and you have more questions, we can help you with technology one-on-one. Email us or give us a call and ask for that. I hope you've learned a lot in our Excel 2 class, our intermediate Excel. You can deal with errors and construct references, use Autosum, create more advanced formulas using the custom functions with their specific names. Look them up in the function library of Excel. Thanks for watching this video. We hope you learned a lot in our intermediate Microsoft Excel class. If you need to go back to our beginning Microsoft Excel class from the spreadsheet, you can click the click here for our beginning Microsoft Excel class link, and that should open up your web browser to that video on YouTube, where you could hit play and the video would start. And I'm going to stop it for now. Back to the spreadsheet. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, press the YouTube logo picture up here. And again, that will take you to your web browser. You can subscribe to the Lincolnwood Library by clicking on this button here to get all of our videos sent to you. And finally, to see all of our resources on our website, click the Lincolnwood Library logo. And again, that'll open a web browser and take you to our site. You can see the catalog if you're interested in curbside pickup. Under Research and Learning Quick Links, you can see all of the premium resources that Lincolnwood residents can use with their library cards. And for more technology training, you can use lynda.com, just to highlight one. So explore the website, see all of our resources. Let us know if we can help you out. Under Contact Us, we have a whole bunch of different ways to get in touch with us if you have more questions. Thanks for watching.